All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1,000,000 Relationships Podcast. And today I am here, and Diana, I totally forgot before we hit the record button to ask, how do you pronounce your last name? I want to make sure I get that right.
Indries.
Indries. Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
That's fine, no problem.
And I'm really excited to have this conversation that you and I got to connect before. And before we get into it, though, I want to give a quick shout out to the folks over at podcastguest.com. What they are doing with that platform as far as bringing together really amazing podcast guests with podcast hosts like myself. I'm incredibly grateful for them and the work that they're doing. And Diana, you and I wouldn't even be talking right now if not for
That's
them.
true.
And so,
Yes.
so yeah, I just want to give a shout out to those guys. And this podcast is all about relationships and around facilitating relationships that impact millions of people's lives. And so, what I'd like to do is just kind of start off by turning it over to you so that we can set a little bit of context and give the listeners a little bit of an idea of who you are. And so we'll talk about, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work that you do, and also give some background and some context so we kind of understand how you got into doing what you do as well. And so we'll start there, Diana.
Sure. So first, Kevin, I want to thank you, for having me on your podcast and for giving me the opportunity to speak to your listeners today. And second, I would ask your listeners to grab a tea or coffee or whatever their preferred drink is and sit back and relax because this is going to be an interesting story. So my name is Diana and I live in Sheffield, United Kingdom. I've been living in the UK for the past 12, 13 years now.
Okay.
It seems like yesterday, that I moved here. Now it's, and currently I am the CEO and co-owner of Better Topics, which is a platform where we help couples improve their relationships, but improve them in a very, very fun way. So what has started off with being just a card game for couples, now it has transformed into a whole platform where we help couples in various ways, not just with the card game itself. And we are also working on just getting in our second game, which is more of a party game, if you like, but still related to relationships, because the second game, although is meant, for friends to play, as like at a group gathering or something, it's still educating them on relationships and how to choose a suitable partner for them. Because I really, really love education through play, and this is one of my biggest passions. And my other big passion is relationships. That being said, my personal background is very, very different.
Okay.
In university, I actually studied law. And straight after university, because I'm originally from Eastern Europe, I migrated to the UK, where I worked in admin in a hospital. I worked, my last job when I left was as a manager in learning and development in NHS, which is the National Health System, so at a local hospital. And when I left because, well, and this also ties into my $1 million relationship, which is with my husband, Robert, and I want to honor him today.
Okay.
Because if he would have not appeared in my life, Better Topics would have not existed. And all of those hundreds of couples that we help regularly would have not had this help from us. And all of those as well who enjoy playing our games and everything. So basically nothing about Better Topics would have existed if Robert would have not been in my life.
Very good. So how did you and Robert meet, Diana?
It's actually quite an interesting story. I love telling the story because it's so funny. It's literally a meet cute type of thing that happened to us.
Okay.
but this also came at a very, some would say, strategic point in our life. And looking back at it, it makes sense why we've met when we did. Although in a moment, you know, we were just baffled that we actually found each other in a most random way. So at the time, I was already living for 6 years in the UK, and Robert was living for about 5 years in Mexico.
Okay.
And both of us, we are originally from Eastern Europe, from the almost the same city, just like a couple of hours away. But we actually grew up and went to very close high schools. We're like literally 10 minutes away from each other. And university, we went to the same university, but different faculties. And you know, as students, you tend to go out to the same places, like, you know, they're the designated student places. We've never actually met. So during 8 years spent in the same city, we've never met. We had to go away, both of us, for a few more years to learn our own lessons.
Yeah.
And then the universe or God or, you know, whoever is out there had it done that we've met the most random circumstances where I was visiting my parents because we were supposed to go to my cousin's wedding. And the Wi-Fi was not working in the house. And my parents weren't too bothered by it because anyway, they would use desktops, you know, with the cable. So they were fine. According to them, we had internet. According to my tablet, we didn't. So, you know, we all have that one IT friend that we call when we need them. And my IT friend from then couldn't actually come and help me with the Wi-Fi, but he sent Robert, who was a good friend of his. And that's how we actually met. He literally came to my house. He literally found me at home, which was funny. And then, you know, whilst he was trying to fix the Wi-Fi, we were talking and we hit it off very, very well. And then we went out for a few drinks and everything. And, you know, we actually realized that we like each other. And it was this very, very strange feeling that you've met with someone you knew all your life, but you don't know them. Like, it's strange, but we just gelled together so, so well. And then I went back to the UK because my holiday was over. And then I asked them to come over, you know, to get to know each other better, and then to decide whether he actually wants to be with me or not. And he did that. He came over for a weekend. And let me tell you, it was the randomest weekend ever because
Okay.
we didn't do anything extraordinary. We literally just went to the movies. We went to like an entertainment place with like games and stuff. And I showed him like what an actual English pub is like and like an actual pork pie is like, you know, like from the original England, you know. And but still the connection we had was so deep that within a week he decided to actually move to England and to actually be with me. And 2 months later he proposed, and 4 months later we had our wedding. So within 6 months of knowing each other, we were married.
Yep.
Because from the very first minute we've met each other, we just hit it off so well. It was just incredible. And I know this might sound cheesy for many of your listeners, but more than 5 years into our marriage, we're still super happy. And still that connection is there. And we actually both say that it's grown even deeper. The connection and the friendship we have and the love and the passion and everything that a great relationship should have.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And so now I'm curious, how did this game come into existence? How did it even come to be, Diana?
It was actually a mix of circumstances because, as I said, I was working in corporate, basically in management, and I was becoming increasingly frustrated and anxious about going to work on Monday morning because
Okay.
I'm the type of person that likes to evolve, likes to go ahead, likes to go up, likes to discover new things, fix things if need be. But I found that in that level of corporate, I was stuck basically between my higher management from then and the team I was managing myself. And basically, my managers never wanted me to have great ideas or how to improve things. They just wanted me to pass down information and make sure it's implemented. It didn't matter, it was good, it was not, it was doable or not. And that to me was quite frustrating because having worked my way up through the ranks of corporate, I've seen at every level what things could be done to improve things. manage things better, help people do their job better, and all those type of things. But nobody was listening to me. And I was very disappointed because I said, I worked so many years to get to this level. And I thought, once I'm here, I'll be able to be more creative. I'll have freedom of movement and of decisions. And that was not the case, because I realized the higher up you go, the more restricted you are.
Wow.
And that was literally heartbreaking for me. And I started becoming increasingly anxious every time I had to go to work, because I was not happy there. I didn't feel fulfilled at all. Yes, we were doing important work because we were helping patients at the end of the day, but I knew there was so much more that could be done. And at the same time, I was watching my husband, Robert, working 15, 16, 17 hours a day sometimes. I mean, once I looked at his calendar, he literally had like 16 calls back to back.
Wow.
And by the end of it, he would have no voice left, but he would still be super, super excited. And I was amazed. Like, I would just look at him and could not imagine, how is that? How does that feel? How is that even possible after so many years in business to have that? Like, what is that? On one side, I was here, on Sunday evening having panic attacks and anxiousness because, oh my God, tomorrow is Monday and I have to go back to work, in that crazy place again. And I was looking at my husband over there being super happy and pumped. Oh my God, tomorrow it's Monday. I can't wait. Let me just make a list of all the things I need to do because I'm so excited, to get everything done and all the projects he was working on. And I'm like, I don't know how that is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm spending so much time at work. I want to have that too. I want to have some level of happiness and fulfillment from my work as well, not just go there, wait for my hours and life to pass so I can go home and be too tired to do anything else, but also not want to sleep because that would mean I would just go back to work again in the morning. So out of that came, a lot of frustration. And I did discuss with Robert that, it's time for me to make a change. I didn't know exactly what change that would be and how it would look like, but I told them I have to change something, and the change should be quite drastic and radical because I cannot do this anymore. Like, no, I was feeling literally like I'm suffocating.
Yeah.
So I said, I need to get out. I don't know what I should do or what I can do, anything else, but I definitely want to get out of, the rut I was feeling I'm in.
Yeah.
Now, again, this was my own personal experience. And from another point of view, that job was quite good and it was secure. And, it was the type of job where nobody would ever fire you from unless you murder someone. And even then, they might send you first to counseling and then decide whether they would fire you or not. But it was a very, very secure job. But it wasn't fulfilling for me personally. Yeah. Now, I don't want, out of your listeners who are in corporate, just to give up their job because I did. If they're happy in it and they're happy with the level of comfort they have and security, that's fine, keep it. But for me personally, I realized that was not the way forward. Not when I saw literally near me that life can be different as well and so much better.
Yeah.
Also, I was tied physically to a desk. Whether I had work or not, I couldn't leave earlier, and say, okay, I finished all my work in 4 hours instead of 8. I had to stay the 8 hours at a desk, literally tied to a desk. Whereas my husband, he would just take his laptop and, he could travel anywhere.
Yep.
And although some might think that, the laptop lifestyle is just easy, you just sit on a beach and with your laptop, he still focuses a lot on his work. He still does a lot of work, but still is different when you're not tied to a specific place. You can still do so many other things outside of work as well. And it gives you sort of freedom as well.
Yeah.
So that's when we started brainstorming together about what are the things that I could actually do, because I didn't have any outstanding hobbies. I'm not good at music. I like to listen to music, but I'm not good at creating it. I don't really have a singing voice unless I'm in a choir and you cannot really hear me on my own. I didn't have like anything like knitting or painting or no really any hobbies really. I can do a bit of DIY, but just the basics. So we did think a lot about what is it that I could actually do. And Robert actually came up with the idea, and he said that from his perspective, I am really good at keeping our relationship, because he always appreciated how much effort I put into it, into our relationship, into everything that is related to us, to that, and to us, basically, as a couple, as a married couple, and everything. And we said, okay, what about relationships though? Because although I am interested in psychology quite a lot, and I've read and I had a lot of courses on psychology, I wasn't interested in becoming a psychologist per se, or a, couple therapist or a therapist of any kind. So at the same time, because all of this brainstorming didn't just happen in one sitting, it happened through few weeks of back and forth and discussions and trying to discover and trying to find out what it is that I would like to do. Because he always said, although in the beginning of a business, you have to do everything, especially when you're alone, like the admin, the basic accounting, even sometimes, and the sales and the actual thing that your business is about.
Okay.
As you move along, you can obviously give some of those to people who know what they're doing better than you, and then you just keep that one part that you are good at. And then he was trying to discover, what is that part for me? How would that look like? Something that I would actually like to do long term, because he always said, if I don't like it, I'll just struggle with it for a few years and I'll just give it up eventually, like I did my corporate job.
Yeah.
So during the same time, I was getting this so-called card game for couples, because we love board games. And because we have a set date night, even ever since we were dating, we always have a theme to it, most of times at least. And either we play a board game, we play a video game, we go out for a walk. We always try to do something together on our date night without including anyone else. And because it was, getting colder outside, and because it was Britain, so it's always raining, I got these cards because I said, it's a good time to spend together and not watch TV all the time, or have our attention directed to something else, but directed towards us as a couple.
Okay.
And I was very, very frustrated with these games that we got, because some of them were drinking games, and we don't really drink. It's very rare that we drink, maybe once or twice a year, something like that. Okay. So that really didn't suit us. And then other games were not even games per se, because there weren't any rules to it. They were just printed questions on a piece of paper, on a card, basically. And they were calling it games. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you play it? You just ask the question. There's not even a game. Like, what is that? So also those questions were very disappointing, because we were already together for I think 2-3 years at this point. And we kind of knew each other already. You do get to know each other in a few years. And then some of these questions we realized are not helping our relationship at all. Like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite ice cream? And I'm thinking, like, how is that even relevant to help a relationship?
Sure.
Okay, it might count, if you want to surprise your partner with something and you want to make sure you get the exact type of color, gift, or flavor they want. But it's not crucial, to building a relationship, to strengthening a relationship. So I remember me being super frustrated with these cards, because they're not even games. They were marketing them as games. They aren't games. They're just questions printed on a paper. I'm like, might as well just open an article online and just ask you the questions that I find there. I don't need these cards. And it's not like a repeatable game, because most board games that we have, you can play them over and over again. But these you couldn't. You just ask the questions once and that's it, done. You're done. You can throw it away, give it away. I don't know, donate it maybe, So that was when the idea actually popped into Robert's head. What if we create our own game? And that actually took me by surprise, because that never crossed my mind before that.
Okay.
And I said, okay, but how would that even look? And, he kept telling me, like, well, just think about it, because if we create the game, we can literally set any rules we want. Like, whatever we like in board games, we can put together and trying to find a way how to make how to make it work. And then also, to actually help relationships, not just not help them,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when we started brainstorming more about this idea. And I actually resonated with that quite a lot. And we started working on the questions, and we worked on the questions for, I think, more than 6 months. And then in the meantime, you know, Robert helped me with the design of it and the logo and the color schemes and all of those. And, you know, together we also curated the rules and how it should be played, basically, because there are a few elements that are very crucial in this game. And it is the random element, which I love, and the luck element, if you like, in a board game. You
Okay.
get this especially with dice games. So every time I play a board game with my husband where dices are involved, I win. Like in the weirdest, funniest ways, like when he's almost about to win, I come in and I sweep in the prize every time. It's so funny. It annoys him already after so many years. And every time we, even now, like if we want to play a board game, we're like, okay, which one should we play? And then he always asks me, like, do you want to win or lose? Because anything that has to do with luck, I'll win definitely against him. And anything to do with strategy, he will win definitely, because I'm just playing to relax. He's playing to win all the time. So our board game, sorry, it's not a board game, it's a card game. Our card game has the luck element into it because it depends what cards you're dealt. And then it also has the strategy element, which is it depends how you actually play the cards you have, because it is an actual game of back and forth asking questions, but the questions are created in a specific way so that they are repeatable. You can actually play this game over and over again, because the way we created the questions, the answers will always change.
Oh.
And also, the questions are actually helpful and conducive of great conversations. Now, we have some questions that are deeper, and we have obviously some questions that are lighter as well, because we want to ease people into these type of questions. Not everyone is comfortable in opening up straight away, even if they are talking to their partner, or even more so to their partner, because, you know, they might fear they are judged or criticized or so on. So we have that, and then we also have added new elements like we call them modifiers. So these are a lot of game-like elements, like cancel the question or even reverse the question. So, you know, if my husband thinks he got me locked in with like a more difficult question, I can actually reverse the question if I have that card and, you know, make him answer it instead. And also the player who wins the game gets to also choose their own reward out of the reward game. So basically, you see, with this card game, we literally put together all of the things that we love about board games. So we thought of different board games that we like. What do we like about it? And we just included those in this card game with the added, if you like, spice of actually helping a relationship.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And I think what a lot of people would find really interesting is that you used social media. You also used a crowdfunding platform to launch this game, which I thought, you know, I'm fascinated by that, because anybody who can run a successful crowdfunding campaign, they have developed something. And not only have they developed something, like in this case, you developed this game, but you also were able to communicate why somebody would want that to people. And you used the crowdfunding platform to do that. And those people voted by saying yes and investing in that. So tell everybody, because I think that's absolutely fascinating. Tell people how you launched it and how you guys did the crowdfunding to launch your game.
So I just want to put this out there. First of all, it was my very first ever attempt to anything like that. I've never done it. I didn't have a background in business. My husband did, and luckily he supported me. So it happened in around June 2020 when we actually launched with a Kickstarter campaign, which is like a crowdfunding, but it's just called Kickstarter.
Yep.
Where basically is a platform where you put your project out, you explain it to people what it is, why it is amazing, and then in theory, you know, people on the platform come to it. If they like it, they support you with money so that you have enough cash to actually jumpstart this basically and create your first orders. And usually it is priced in a way where you have some leftovers, so your initial order is larger, so that you also have a bit of let's say, stock to actually start off your business with.
Yes.
And the things that we didn't know that time was that any such campaign doesn't actually start on the launch day when you launch it, and the campaign is like has a fixed date, like 25 days or 35 days, depending which one you're opting for.
Okay.
And usually these campaigns start a few months before, where you start to raise awareness before it, and then you put it on a platform, and then you drive people there. For us, it was quite a big shock in the beginning because we had no idea about this. We just thought that we're launching this, and then we start reaching out to people.
Oh,
And because it was such a new type of game, and many people didn't really understand what's about, because it's nothing like anything you've seen out there. And especially nothing like the biggest names in the market in this area as well. Many people were confused, you know. But still, however, with all of those, let's see, blockages, we still managed to have a successful Kickstarter campaign, which was amazing to us. And we were so, so grateful to all of those who helped us and backed us. And we've decided to launch it then with a Kickstarter campaign because although we didn't feel we were ready 100%, COVID actually hit a few months before that. So it was like 2020 March when COVID actually blew up everywhere in the world. And then in June, we said, okay, we definitely have to launch this, because just imagine so many couples are physically locked in with their spouses.
Yeah.
And as my brother put it at the time, so many people came to regret their decision of a spouse now because they're locked in. Because, you know, when everyone was free, you know, they had time to focus on career, kids, hobbies, anything else, and even avoid each other for most of the time, and not really interact with each other. But now that everyone was like literally physically locked in, I mean, yes, sure, you can watch movies, but, you know, in a week or two, you will finish all of the good movies on any given platform. So what then? You know, and this was going on for months. So we're like, okay, let's do this, and let's help people do something more productive with their life instead of just, you know, trying to survive in the same house. And instead of, you know, letting all of these relationships lead into breakups or even divorce. So that was our main reason why we launched just then. And as I said, you know, we had a Kickstarter campaign. We came through it successful. And then we obviously sent out the first games to our backers. And since then, our main game, Better Topics game for couples, can be found on our website and on Amazon as well for US, UK, and Australia.
Okay. Well, this is really fascinating, Diana. And, you know, for anybody listening to this going, man, Kevin, what an amazing story that Diana shared. And for anybody who just kind of like, you know, now they're probably curious, like, okay, where can I see this game? Where can I find out more? Well, please let them know where, you know, let them know your website or any other resources that you guys have available for people who are curious about that.
Sure. So we are on all social media platforms at Better Topics.
Okay.
And also our website is bettertopics.com, where they can find out more about the game, this game that we have right now, and the new coming up game, and, well, everything in between that we do to help couples everywhere.
Awesome. Well, Diana, I really want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today. You know, the big thing that I, you know, really wanted to come from this podcast when we launched. I mean, it's amazing to think that we are, going on 2.5 years into this. Because as an entrepreneur, I have long realized that relationships are our most valuable asset. Everything else stems from that. And so for listeners who are, you know, primarily entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, I just want to use these conversations to inspire them to place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their own lives. And, you know, to have you describe, you know, what has transpired with your relationship with your husband, and this just the dynamic there of just seeing him being like, wow, you know, he's just so excited about the work that he does. And even if he works long days and long hours, he's excited about that. Like, I can totally relate to that, Diane, because I love doing what I do too. And so to have that dynamic take place to where you guys now started running this business, and you primarily run it, but he's so incredibly supportive of you in running this business, and that through that you guys are just having such an amazing impact in this world, you know, helping other couples just solidify their own relationships too. And so I just, you know, I think that's absolutely amazing. And so,
thank you so much.
Any last thing you feel compelled to share before we call it a wrap, Diana?
Just one more thing for all of your listeners. And I know to some this might sound like too crazy, but I'm going to say it, is that everyone deserves and can have a great relationship. And again, I know this might sound cheesy and like a line from a movie, but it is actually true. You can have it if you're willing to invest a bit of time and effort into it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I will tell you that my wife and I, we celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary this year. And
wow. Happy anniversary.
In fact, you know what, right now, today, she was on a week-long trip with a girlfriend of hers. They went to the Smoky Mountains and stuff for a women's conference and stuff. And she just got back home yesterday. And so she was gone for like 5 days. And I will tell you, you know what, when she's gone for 5 days, and she comes back home, I am reminded of how much I appreciate her, you know?
Yes.
And yeah, I feel like an incredibly blessed guy to have a woman in my life who I love, who is just so supportive of me and the work that I do as well. It just means so much. And so, Diana, once again, thanks so much for taking the time to have this conversation. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with other people. So thanks.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Kevin. Thank you.
Absolutely.
It was fun.
Absolutely.